if you guys want to learn Arabic, then check out the Kalam app. It's an app that I've been using to practice because I still don't know Arabic, but I'm getting there. And what's great about the app is they give you little exercises to make sure that you actually remember what you're learning. You could use it just a few minutes every day and it will drastically improve your Arabic speaking ability. Patrick Bet David interviewing Benjamin Netanyahu, the man committing the general in Palestine right now. And it's so funny because he has in the title, Netanyahu admits genocide. Ooh, and you're like, oh my God, really? That's not exactly what happens. Not to spoil anything, but let's just jump into it.
So I have a very simple open-ended question for you. Why are you doing this podcast tour?
Well, number one, because I heard that you invited me. Number two, because I think it's a way to puncture the lies and the vilifications that are leveled at Israel. And I think that's part of the, we have a 7-front war with Iran and its proxies, but this is the 8th front, the battle for truth. So that's why I'm doing it.
So funny. He says the battle for truth when all this is propaganda. And he knows for a fact that he's losing the PR war. He's losing the media war. And that's why he's doing this, to cover himself.
It's interesting when you say that.
Also, yeah, that's a good point. He was invited. Patrick Bet David was like, hey, let me chill. And then he invited him on the podcast.
Because when we look at a couple numbers, if we think about the Pew Research that came out a couple months ago on the unfavorability rate of Israel, they have you 24 out of 5. If I look at the number, I don't know if you have it to pull it up. If you look at the numbers, you would see the 24-country medium is 62 to 29 being favorable. Why do you think so many countries are unfavorable of Israel today?
I think it's a combination of historical trends, but also of the impact of social media, especially engineered social media with paid bots, and this new media environment that we're in. It has built-in parameters that really take their toll. So we're aware of that. But I think the most important thing is that for democracies to fight wars, they should be as short as possible. And my way of combating the PR war is by winning the ground war and winning it quickly. The quicker you win it, the better you'll come out of this assault.
So why do you think this has taken so long? Because if you think a part of it, when you think about especially in America, there's 3 different types of people on social media right now in America that follow you. One, they fully believe you're committing a genocide right now. They're part of the community that's thinking they compare you to some dictators, some terrible leaders in the past, many names you've heard of before. Some of them are blindly supportive of what you're doing, but there's the other community that's almost a little bit burned out, that's wanting this story to end. Obviously, it's tragic. We're seeing what's going on. We're seeing all the stories, but why do you think this has taken longer than it's taking?
Well, I don't think.
What a moronic question. Can we all just pause and just recollect what he said here? Why is it taking longer than it's taking? Wow. Is he nervous or something? Is he nervous speaking to a war criminal?
It's taken longer than it's taking. Look at what we had to fight. We were attacked viciously by the most savage attack on the Jewish people since the Holocaust. That's by Hamas on October 7th. I said on the second day of the war when Hezbollah joined the fray, I said we're going to change the face of the Middle East because it was clear to me, and it may be clear to you too, that we're fighting the Iran axis. Without Iran.
I didn't know the Iran axis involved children, tens of thousands of children, apparently. Apparently, Iran is recruiting tens of thousands of children from Gaza because Israel felt the need to just eviscerate them from existence. That's news to me.
I would say that all the axis, all the proxies collapse. Hezbollah collapses, Hamas collapses, Assad collapses, and so on. So it was clear to me that we had to topple the Iran axis and not just deal with Hamas. And what happened following that was that we went in, Hamas is in its last breath. We haven't finished it yet, but we crippled Hamas. Then we went and finished off Hezbollah, took out Nasrallah. That led to the collapse of the Assad regime.
So they assassinated politicians. They assassinated actual politicians, leaders of countries, of governments. They're assassinating people politically, and they're proud of it.
The armaments we destroyed. The Syrian army's armaments. We dealt with the Houthis, still dealing with them. And then we had Iran itself that had struck us, and we had to strike back.
He's like, Iran struck us. You struck Iran first. Everyone knows this. It's not even worth lying about. You struck Iran first. They retaliated, not the other way around. That's so funny, man.
And as you see, we changed the face of the Middle East, not only because we hobbled the proxies, but because Iran, which was a totally invincible enemy, throwing its weight around not only in the Middle East, spreading terror everywhere, and trying to arm itself with nuclear weapons and ballistic missiles to deliver them. We struck them very hard. So when you fight these 4 fronts, and there are another 3, by the way, that I haven't mentioned. When you're doing that, a small country, it takes time. But I think we're approaching the final leg, and that's really finishing off Hamas. We can't have those monsters at spitting distance from Tel Aviv and our communities, and we're going to finish it.
Yeah. So when you say that, for a person that lived in Iran, I look at the critics and they're giving, hey, let me tell you, it's not fair what he's doing with this. And you see ICC, which the average person, when they see ICC, 124 countries, that if you step foot in their country, they're supposed to arrest you. Okay. And they're calling you a wartime criminal, the offenses you've done, the amount of, again, like I said earlier, they're calling it a genocide. How do you answer to the critics that they don't follow politics, they don't follow the stories closely? But if they see, if they see 120 something countries that if you land there, they're supposed to arrest you, the average person is going to say, maybe this isn't a good guy.
Yeah, well, they said that about Churchill too. He was a warmonger when he was talking about the German Axis and the danger to the West.
I don't know if you know this, but Winston Churchill wasn't exactly a good person. I'm pretty sure he was racist. Winston Churchill was not a great person. I don't know why he's using that as like the standard here.
Yeah, he said he warned of the slumber of democracies. And I guess if I learned one thing from our history, the history of the Jewish people, is that you can't sleep. When somebody says they're out to annihilate you, you better take it seriously and act to prevent it. And that's the central lesson that we learned in the rebirth of the Jewish state.
What are you talking about? You guys went into Palestine with Jewish Zionist terrorist organizations, terrorized innocent men, women, and children, attacked villages, created the Nakba, caused the Nakba, where 750,000 Palestinians had to flee for their safety because you were attacking them. And this is something that Ben Gurion wrote in a letter to his own son. He wrote in a letter to his own son saying that we have the force to remove them, and we'll do that if we need to, not because we want to remove them, but because we want to ensure our own safety. So to ensure your own safety, you go and intentionally use force and murder innocent men, women, and children to get people scared enough to run away and flee from their homes, so you can steal the land for yourself. And then he went on to say that we're out equipping them. We're better strategically. We have better strategy. We have better equipment. And this is the funniest part. On top of that, he wrote in this letter to his son, even if the Arab nations gather and try and fight us, we have America backing us. That's what he said. He basically indicated we got America and we got Britain backing us. Not just in terms of them actually getting involved, but them sending weapons to Israel. So I don't know what he's talking about. Oh, if our history tells me this one thing, is that if someone says they're going to take you out, then you got to take it seriously. You're the one committing the genocide. What are you talking about? You're the one committing a genocide.
And the Jewish people in Israel, we don't wait to be annihilated. We take forceful action against our would-be annihilators. And I think that people see it after you do it. After you realize your vision, then people say, well, yeah, we begin to understand it. But they don't before, and that's certainly
that only works if you buy out all the media corporations to push your propaganda. That's the only time it works, when you convince the world that it never actually happened. What she's trying to do in the genocide in Gaza right now, she's trying to convince you that it's not actually happening. So just keep your head on straight.
True of the case here. In the United Nations, you have 180 countries, 190 countries, and a great majority would tell you that the earth is flat. It doesn't make it flat. And the vilifications against Israel is a country.
Did he just say majority of countries would try and convince you the world is flat? Is he giving a hypothetical, or is he saying that they would? Because what the heck did he just say? Which country thinks the earth is flat?
Committing genocide and other war crimes. That doesn't make it true either. Let me tell you, did you ask me about the ICC prosecution just now?
It's not just countries claiming this. It's human rights organizations. The person who coined the term genocide is saying it's a genocide. The person who coined the term genocide is saying it's a genocide. It's not just a bunch of countries. And by the way, if a bunch of countries are saying one thing and you're the only country saying no, yeah, you're wrong. You're wrong. It's like Jay-Z said, if everybody's crazy, you're the one who's insane. You're the one who's insane, buddy. Go to a psych ward. Get inspected. Super chat here. Jazakallah khair Musa. Assalamu alaikum, bro. You were part of the reason why I took Shahada over a year ago. Allahu Akbar. May Allah bless you and increase you. I used to listen to 3 Muslims at the gym and still follow you. Bless. May Allah bless you, increase you in goodness. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. And that was amazing to hear, brother. May Allah increase you in goodness.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me tell you about that. So we were going to have this ICC prosecutor who's since been basically put to pasture. This ICC prosecutor was going to come to Israel in the beginning of the war. And he said, well, Israel has, it has a proper judicial system, and I don't see any real problem there. And he was about to come. And a day before he's about to come, he suddenly cancels the trip. And 2 days later, he issues this war crimes charge against me and the former defense minister. And we didn't understand, why did he do it? It took us months to discover that a few days before that, he was confronted by one of his staff members, a senior staff members, who brought the charges of rape and sexual misconduct that this prosecutor carried out against one of his staff members, a woman, a Malaysian woman, by the way, who was fiercely anti-Israel. But she had suffered this harassment and these rapes for over a year. And Khan believed that this was his ruin. His brother, who's a British parliamentarian, was in jail for sexual misconduct too. So he said, that's it, that's the end of me. And then he figured out that there's one way to get out of this, and that is to deflect the entire conversation, to preempt it by blaming the Jews and blaming the prime minister of the Jewish state. And that's essentially
What the hell is he talking about? Let me give you guys a quick lesson here, okay? Let me give you a quick lesson. The ICC process does not take one prosecutor to say, I think we should just send these arrest warrants out, and then everyone's like, yeah, let's do it. These things take years. They require evidence, and there's preliminary proceedings before they issue the arrest warrant, meaning they have to have a reason to. And this guy, this prosecutor, Khan, was not the one who initiated this. The one who initiated was this entire ICC instance was his predecessor, Fatou Bensouda, I think is her name. This is a woman, and she's from somewhere in South Africa, like Southern Africa, like Sub-Saharan Africa. I mean, not South Africa as a country. And she's the one who initiated this. So Netanyahu was sitting being like, oh, the guy who initiated this did all these terrible things. No, that's not true. It was his predecessor, who was a woman who didn't do anything wrong, by the way. And it took years. They did this back in 2018 based on some incidents that Israel, basically crimes Israel committed back in 2014. So Israel commits crimes in 2014. 2018, Fatou Bensouda and the ICC initiate this process to get to basically indict them and get some arrest warrants out for them. And then in 2024, I think is when it happened, the arrest warrants actually officially come out, not because of Khan, even though he was working there at the time, but because the entire process. This thing goes through multiple teams before it's finalized. So that's complete BS. And can we just talk about that stupid freaking excuse? He's like, the guy committed RP against someone, right? He SA'd someone. And he's thinking, how do I get out of committing a crime? Let me attack Jews. What? How on earth would that save him? Exactly. How on earth would that save him from the crime that he committed? Does anyone on the face of the earth buy this? Does anybody in existence think that this makes sense? Can I see a show of hands or something? Yeah, I'm not seeing any hands.
he did. Since then, you should know that there have been 4 or 5 other women who charged him with sexual misconduct. So what you have here is the ICC, which is a corrupt organization, totally politicized, unelected, that wants to, basically preempt the sovereignty of nations. And that's why the United States is not a member. They won't tell the United States that its soldiers are committing war crimes because some woke people in The Hague are telling you that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Their soldiers are committing war crimes? I'm pretty sure your soldiers are committing war crimes as well and documenting them, like posting them publicly. Not only have doctors who worked in Gaza come forth and stated all the war crimes that you've committed, not only did the UN and human rights organizations like Doctors Without Borders, Amnesty International, and B'Tselem, which is a human rights organization based in Israel, say that you're committing war crimes. You're documenting it. You're showing us the war crimes that you're so proud of committing. And didn't your Knesset, didn't your cabinet have a debate on whether or not IDF soldiers should be allowed to SA Palestinian people? Wasn't that your government that had that debate? That would be like the Congress debating if they're allowed to SA indigenous women. And by the way, the reason behind this, the reason that the rabbis in Israel give is it's supposed to boost morale. Isn't that your government? The UN wrote an article based on their findings, and they found that IDF soldiers would strip Palestinians of like their clothes entirely in the freezing cold, amongst other things. And there's a video of one IDF soldier sodomizing a man. It's literally captured on video. And this guy wants us to believe that someone else's soldiers is committing these crimes. Okay, sure, buddy.
This ICC, this corrupt ICC prosecutor, thought that he would escape justice by basically by condemning us.
How does that make sense?
And I think a lot of countries are waking up.
How does that make sense? And he got fired anyways, by the way, and I'm sure he's going to face justice. How does that make sense at all?
To that. It's sort of embarrassing when your chief prosecutor is doing such a corrupt and heinous thing. But that's the ICC. I mean, President Trump has put sanctions on him. He's put sanctions on the judges who did this. I think he's just facing it. That's what I like about him. He just cuts to the chase.
He likes that he does everything that he's told to, like a good little boy. That's what he likes. He commands and then Trump listens.
It's a corrupt organization, a corrupt prosecutor, corrupt judges, and reminds me of that movie. You remember Network?
Mm-hmm.
I think.
Yes.
We're not going to take it anymore. And it's not just Israel, because if they target Israel and they say to a democracy defending itself against these savages, you can't defend yourself, then no democracy is safe, and America isn't safe. So I think that's come out. There is extraordinary vilification, extraordinary lies leveled at Israel, and they're meant to prevent us from exercising our legitimate right of self-defense. They won't succeed.
So if we talk about the legitimate right for you to defend yourself, you'll see the numbers. I'm a business guy. I'll see how this war has cost you roughly 120 to 130 billion dollars, whether it's Hamas, Gaza, Iran, roughly 120 to 130 billion dollars, reports that we read. Your debt to GDP ratio went from 60% to 75%. So some of the Americans, they're sitting there saying, yeah, we give you guys roughly 3.8 billion. For the war, America's given roughly $30 billion, which most of it was in weapons. But if you're going from 60 to 75%, how much longer can your economy or even the state be able to afford the war?
Patrick, I'm going to have some good news for you.
Please.
I led as first as finance minister and then as prime minister, a free market revolution in Israel. And Israel became a wealthy country because we unleashed the genius in our population and innovators and just incredible capacity to.
Yeah, that's what money does. Like, yeah, when you have BlackRock and these huge corporations owned by Zionists who are investing in Israeli bonds and Israeli stocks, yeah, you're going to get a lot of money to innovate and to create and to whatever. That would not have happened without that would not have happened without America. I don't know what this guy's on. Like, it's actually hilarious. I wish I had the ability to cope and convince myself of a fantasy like this. I'm not capable of lying to myself so diligently that I actually believe it. Like, this guy, if he wanted to, would actually convince himself unicorns exist and the sky is purple. He would convince himself the grass is blue and the sky is green, and he would believe it. And if he takes a lie detector test, he would pass, because this guy's ability to cope, lie, and completely convince himself of a fantasy delusion is immeasurable. And I'm almost jealous that he's able to do this. But I guess, yeah, narcissistic. This is what narcissists do. They convince themselves of this weird fantasy reality that does not exist. I can't wait for this guy to go to hell, bro. The reality's finally gonna hit him. He's gonna be like, damn, I'm going to hell. I'm going to hell. And he's gonna go and he's gonna burn in hell. Maybe then he'll finally realize.
Produce products and services that service all mankind in medicine and communications. That cell phone that you're probably holding half of it is probably made in Israel. And the cherry tomatoes that you eat, they were made in Israel, and so on. And medicines that you use, made in Israel. So Israel became a powerhouse, a juggernaut of innovation and enterprise. And it strengthened our economy. We went from $17,000 per capita to about $60,000 in a very short time. It's a tremendous success story. Now, here's the truth. This is something I just saw, a slide. I wish I had it here. Too bad. But the slide shows investments in R&D that a country receives from foreign sources. So number one is the United States, like huge. Number two, in absolute terms, now as we speak today, is Israel, tiny Israel. The next country is Germany. It's 2/3 of Israel, and the rest of the Western countries fall further and further behind. So our economy is actually doing quite well, I should say, and it's amazing. And you're right to ask it, but
that is a crazy amount of cope. Even if I don't believe that's true, but even if it's the case that he is far better economically than other countries, that doesn't mean your country's economy did not decline. Obviously, America's like the number one. Okay, if you're number two and your economy declines, but you remain number two, that doesn't mean your economy didn't take a hit, you moron. It just means that it wasn't hit enough for you to go to number three.
was an economic miracle in Israel, which I'm very proud to have led.
By the way, they are suffering economically. Like they are actively suffering economically. So many people left, and their entire economy halted. Plus, there are people who are boycotting them. Plus, there are people who are sanctioning them. Countries who are sanctioning them. So yeah, their economy took a hit. This guy's lying through his teeth.
And we just have this resilient capacity, both in our economy, but also in our fighting spirit. We've gone through the Holocaust, and I'm committed, as are my people.
Why does he say we like he was there? You say we, and that's the thing. They convince themselves that they were. They feel it as if they were there, and they think that it's still actively happening. And if they don't kill innocent children, it's going to happen again. I'm not joking. They believe that, and they teach it to their people in school.
Prevent a second Holocaust that Iran was planning. And that's what we've been doing in this war. It's taken this long because we had to break this noose of death that Iran was going to put on us in their plans to conquer the Middle East, in their plans to then proceed to Europe, and in their plans to then proceed to America. They say death to America.
Oh, you mean like what you said about Iraq, that Iraq needs to be taken care of because they have weapons of mass destruction. They're a threat to Israel, and then they're going to be a threat to America as well. And then you basically coerced Americans to get on board with attacking Iraq, and then you went, and it was a huge mistake because you destroyed an entire nation and said there were weapons of mass destruction when there were none, and everyone knew there were none, but they pretended there were. Now you're saying the same thing about Iran, and we're supposed to believe it. Yeah. Okay, buddy.
America. We're just standing in their way. And boy, did we.
That is complete BS. That is complete BS. If Iran wanted to fire a missile across the ocean and to hit America, they could do it, and Israel could not stop them. Israel's not stopping them from doing anything at all. Okay, Israel's attacking them because Israel's afraid of them. And they know that if Iran gets powerful enough and they keep allying themselves with China and Russia, then Israel cannot last because that political threat is too great. So they attack them now, they destroy them now, so they're safe. They did the same thing with Iraq. First, they did it with the Palestinians. Then they completely castrated Egypt, basically. They castrated Jordan. They got everyone else to be on board with them. Otherwise, it would be assassinated or uprooted from government. Or they just put their own political government in place to basically serve as a proxy and like a little dog to listen to them. And now they're trying to get us to go, well, not us, America, to go fight Iran because Iran's the last standing nation, really. And you know what's funny? After Iran, it's going to be Pakistan. Because Pakistan's the next person who's actually, or the next country who's actually willing to fight Israel. And they said that if you attack, I think they said if you attack Iran, we're going to fight you. And Pakistan has nukes, which, by the way, Israel attempted to stop Pakistan from having nukes, Iran from having nukes. And they're so far succeeding, but at the same time, Iran can still develop nukes. It's not like it's too late.
And in their way.
So I guess the question to kind of move on from this one, do you see yourself, if you're saying the war is not going on for too long, if this thing takes a couple more years, do you see yourself getting to a point that you're going to need to the American taxpayers and need more money and support, or are you able to sustain the expenditure that you have right now?
Yeah, I think we've organized that, and we're perfectly able to do that. I want you to know one other thing. I think Israel is different from your other allies. We spend an inordinate amount of our GDP, inordinate amount, to defend ourselves. I think one of your senators said something very, very true. He said, if we had in Israel, in Afghanistan, or if we had another Israel there, we wouldn't have spent $1 trillion or trillions of dollars. Israel is receiving and
why were you in Afghanistan to begin with? You would also save trillions of dollars if you didn't go to Afghanistan and instigate the war there and fight a war and lose it, by the way. You wouldn't have lost because you were never involved, and you wouldn't have spent all that money.
Very grateful for the American military assistance at about $3.8 billion a year, and 80% of it is spent in the United States. That's the deal. So it helps American.
It's not 80%. It's like 75-ish. He inflated it.
American industries, but we also produce these incredible weapons that we share with the United States. We produce intel that is invaluable for the United States.
Okay, sure, buddy. Sure. Okay, tell yourself that. Tell yourself you're helping America. Tell yourself that little old Israel is helping America and producing the best weapons for them. Sure, buddy.
You're familiar with the Five Eyes, Patrick? You know what that is? All these countries that are part of the American intelligence system? Well, there's a sixth eye, Israel. It's a very powerful eye. and we share our intel with the American intelligence services.
They also spy on America, by the way. And that's something that Ted Cruz admitted in the interview with Tucker Carlson, that Israel spies on them, and he has no problem with that.
And that's why the bond is so strong. It's not only...
Also, they don't share everything with America. They keep secrets from America as well. So they have intelligence that they refuse to share with America.
Not only a bond of values of our common Judeo-Christian civilization, and it is really a war of civilization against the barbarians that we're fighting, but it's also a bond of utility, of great success. That partnership is very, very strong. I know it's challenged all the time, but it's very, very strong. And you should talk to some of the people in the higher places in the Pentagon. I wish you could talk to the people who share our intelligence or the weapon systems that we share. I think that you'll discover that they appreciate, as we appreciate enormously what America gives to us, and they appreciate what Israel gives to America. Somebody said to me, "You're the one fighting ally we have. You don't ask us to put boots on the ground. You don't ask us to fight your wars." All the president...
That is complete BS. You dragged America into a war with Iraq. And for you guys who are interested, I'm wearing my Israeli occupied territory sweater. And as you could see, this is clearly the White House. You could see what I'm getting at, and you could probably understand why I'm mentioning it now, because it's obvious that Israel has an immense amount of control over American politics through AIPAC and otherwise. So if you guys want to rep this amazing hoodie, you can find that in the link in the description, the second link in the description, inshallah.
Trump did a great thing by joining in that precise strike that he did. Didn't just start World War III. It didn't bring thousands of American troops on the ground in Iran, but it did. It was a magnificent addition to our brave soldiers. So I have to tell you,
your soldiers are not brave. They were not on the ground. Shut up. They flew a plane over, if even that, and they dropped bombs. You didn't do anything spectacular, okay? And then America just came in and cleaned up your mess and basically told Iran through their bombs that we're going to get involved, so you don't want none of this.
I think it's a partnership that is going to go on for a long, long time. As far as I'm concerned, for all time.
Prime Minister, what do you say to the critics who say, Israel owns America, Israel is who makes America do things they want him to do, whether it's through AIPAC, whether it's through, funding, money. You'll typically hear this. This has been overly said the last couple of years in a major way. And there's a community of Americans that at this point believe that whatever Israel wants, they make a phone call to America. America better do or else. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely not. I think it's full of hokum. First of all, do you know President Trump? I mean, sort of, I've known him for many years.
Sure.
Okay. You don't make him do anything. He does what he thinks is in America's interest, and he's very forceful about it. When he sees allies who don't step up to the plate, he's not shy about saying it. And we have a different relationship altogether. It's not one of coercion or a manipulation. It's one of common interests and common values. And
that's complete BS. Okay, that is complete BS. Before Trump was in office, he said he's going to settle the war, and he said he wants to settle like in a few weeks. And then that did not happen. So yeah, he clearly does not get what he wants, and you clearly don't listen to him. And if he wanted to, he could stop it. He could do a full arms embargo. He could sanction Israel, and he could basically force you guys to stop, but he's not doing it. And I guess this is what happens when you're potentially in the Epstein files, when they potentially have some stuff on you. Because that's another thing that Trump won't declassify. He won't give the public access to the Epstein files. And according to Elon Musk, he's in them. And it's not surprising because we know for a fact that he used to be friends with Epstein. They spoke to each other. There's video of them partying on camera. And Trump and Epstein were good friends, according to Epstein.
I think that people understand that because Israel is different. It really is. We know that we have to fight for ourselves, and we do. But when we
No, you don't. You don't fight for yourself. You dragged America into Iraq, and then you drop bombs, American bombs from the sky. You're not fighting for yourself. You're using American weapons to drop bombs from the sky. You guys won't go within the 10-foot pole of Palestinian Hamas soldiers or whatever else. You won't. You shoot from sniper towers and drop bombs from behind your fortress.
Fight for ourselves. We fight for you too. Because we fight Iran. Iran tried to murder President Trump not once, but twice. Iran killed and wounded thousands of Americans with their IEDs, explosive devices, in Iraq and Afghanistan. Iran killed 200.
Why was America in Iraq and Afghanistan? Why were they there? It's so funny. He doesn't realize how stupid he sounds. Iran murdered American soldiers. He didn't say soldiers. He just said Americans, as far as I know. American soldiers in Afghanistan and Iraq. Why were they there? That's not their land. Why are they invading these countries? So yeah, good on Iran for fighting back for the sovereignty of these nations. And why don't you want for them what you want for yourself? Why are you the only one who has the right to defend your country? And by the way, you're the only one also who's on stolen land. You stole the land, and then you said you're defending yourself against the people who you stole the land from. Like, it's so moronic.
41 Marines in Beirut.
Oh yeah, by the way, screw Patrick Bet David. Like, this guy is such a shill, and words I'm withholding from saying. I'm trying to contain myself, and I don't want to say bad things because it's haram. But like, this guy is such a filthy shill. The fact that he sat on a Zoom call with this pathetic, disgraceful, I don't even want to call him a human being, a shaitan, a devil wearing a human being's skin. And he didn't press him about actually committing a genocide. He did not push back once. He asked a question. Same thing with Nelk Boys. He asked a question. Netanyahu answered, and he moved on. And that's probably a condition that he gave them on these podcasts. You can ask me a question, I give an answer, and you move on. You're not allowed to push back. Because, or Patrick Bet David just is a hardcore shill, which is very possible, and he wanted this propaganda to be pushed through his garbage show.
Bomb your embassies. They burn American flags. They have mobs chanting, death to America, death to America. So when we fight Iran, we're not just fighting our war, we're fighting your war. But we are fighting that war here in the Middle East. And let me tell you what would happen. And as someone who had been in the Middle East as a child, I think you can appreciate this.
This guy is Polish. You're Polish. Shut up. You're from Europe.
Not only we who are threatened by Iran, it's our Arab neighbors too. They know that Iran wants to conquer them, pillage their oil fields, take over the Middle East, the maritime routes that control world trade. So they know that.
This is coming from the guy who is as old as his country, which stole Palestinian land. You want to talk about stealing the Middle East and occupying the Middle East? That is quite literally what Israel did. Recently, this guy held up a map of the Middle East, and Israel contained all of Palestine, like it doesn't exist anymore. So we all know who's trying to occupy the Middle East. A little like general rule of thumb, whenever a Zionist, especially people like Netanyahu, accuse someone else of something, it's something they're doing or planning to do. So when he says, oh, they're killing innocent people, it's an admission that he's killed innocent people. When he says they're trying to occupy all the Middle East, it's an admission that, well, he's actually trying to occupy the Middle East.
But if you look at who's actually fighting Iran, it's Israel. It's Israel, our brave soldiers, our incredibly brave soldiers. And this tiny country, President Trump asked me, how do you guys do this? I mean, you're such a small country, we're the size of New Jersey, bigger than Rhode Island, but that's it. We're slightly smaller than New Jersey. And we take on this enormous empire with all its proxies, this anti-American empire that threatens to kill the president and chants death to America. How do you do this?
With the backing of America and the threat of America, just like Ben Gurion said, even if the Arab nations, this is like probably 70 years ago when he wrote this, maybe earlier. It was earlier, probably 80 years. Just like he wrote, if the Arab nations ally together to fight you, you're out equipping them and out strategizing them because you have America. And then he even went on to say, well, even if, worst comes to worst, we have America fighting for us, basically. So yeah, that's how you do it. You have America, the biggest, baddest country in the face of the earth, backing you. Because who else? If they fight you, they fight America. If you're on your own, you're getting decimated. You wouldn't exist. I honestly think even if it was Iran versus Israel, Israel would vanish. Because like you said, it's the size of New Jersey. It's very small. It's like 20,000 square feet or something insanely small. Or square miles, sorry. Something insanely small. Bro, Iran is 10 times their size. It's 8 times their size. It's a lot more area to have to bomb. And Iran did show that they can get through the Iron Dome, through Arrow 3, through David Sling, which is their rocket defense system. So the only way you guys survive is by leeching off of America and having them protect you. You literally are Jack Doherty bullying people and then having a giant security guard behind you. That's quite literally who you are.
I said, well, you're like an enormous lion, almost like a prehistoric saber-toothed tiger. You're enormous. We're not, but we are, we're
this guy's glazing American population for obvious reasons.
The badger, this little animal.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
And you see a badger being, some tiger or lioness is trying to kill it, and it sort of turns around. It has very sharp teeth, and it knows how to go to the.
He wants to be the underdog so bad. He's dying to be the underdog. You're not the underdog. You're not. When you have all of America backing you and the best technology in the world because of America and American investments, Yeah, you're not David, you're Goliath. Okay? You're not the honey badger. You're not. You're a honey badger on the back of a lion. That's what you are.
To the weakness points, to the points of vulnerability of the enemy. And you see these things. I watch NGO Wild when my wife lets me, because she likes to watch cooking shows. Okay, so late at night, after we have this argument, we settle on some compromise. And on NGO Wild, I see these films of this badger, this tiny creature, it's about this big, taking on a lion, and the lion runs away. So Israel is the badger of the international scene. It has the fortitude, the will to fight our enemies because of our history. Because for so long we didn't have a state, we didn't have an army, we didn't have the ability to defend ourselves, which culminated in this crescendo of massacres that culminated in the worst massacre of them all, the Holocaust, in which a third of our people were annihilated. We have that in our bones, in our hearts, in our soul, and we fight.
So now you're doing the same thing to the Palestinian population. What is different about it? Name one difference between what happened to Jews in the Holocaust and what's happening to Gazans in Palestine right now. They're both in concentration camps, being oppressed by people who have an ethnic supremacist ideology that regard them as less than human, rats, animals, and whatever else, that blame them for all of their country's problems. What is missing? Really, what is missing? You're doing the same exact thing.
So that's I think President Trump would like to see more Israels around the globe, because, everybody who says, America first, I can respect that, but I don't think they want America alone. And if you can have allies that actually share your values and fight for them in various parts of the world, and especially in the Middle East with Iran trying to take over the world, I think that's a valuable addition. So, it'll take time for this to sink in, but it will sink in.
Yeah, the topic of America first, it's become a little bit more clear where people are being put in different groups, America first and America only, and that debate's going on right now, which is a great debate. I actually like listening to both sides make their argument. But you said, do you think President Trump is the type of a man that you can get anything you want and make him do what he wants? I don't think President Trump is. But I do think Biden and others are. So the whole criticism of the fact that Israel, whatever they want, they can.
Biden did nothing. I'm not defending Biden. He sucked. Both presidents suck. Both sides, the Republicans and the Democrats, both suck. They're both shills. They both agree on let's shill for Israel. Okay, that's their slogan. I made that up. But at the very least, Biden did something. He did it for his own image, and it didn't really do anything, and that was the whole point of it. But Trump has not really done anything at all. At least Biden made a statement.
Call America and have favors being done. I would agree with you on Trump, but with Biden. So maybe a question that I don't think has been asked yet. Putin was asked 2 weeks ago if the war between Ukraine and Russia would have happened under Trump. He said, no, it wouldn't have happened. So for you, would the war and the Hamas attack have happened?
That's BS. The war did not happen because of Biden. That's complete BS.
And
by the way,
President
Trump did not stop the war. It's still happening. He's in office now. It's still going on. He couldn't negotiate a peace deal. He met with freaking Putin in Alaska, and he couldn't negotiate a peace deal. So let's get off the glazing, please.
President instead of Biden.
I don't know. It's a good question, but you said something about Biden that I should just point out the facts. In fact, President Biden supported us in the beginning of the war after this horrific massacre, and he came here, and I very much appreciate it. But as the war progressed and the vilifications of Israel, the distortions on the media began to pile on, he began to take a different course. And when we were just 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way in Gaza, I said we have to go into that last position that they had, where they had organized battalions. It's in a city called Rafah in the southern part of the Gaza Strip. And he said, don't go there.
Rafah was the place where they sent all of the Palestinians to. They said, you can't be here, or here. You have to go to the Rafah border, the Egyptian border, basically. So that's why he didn't let you. Not because there were Hamas battalions there, because every Palestinian was essentially there, because you forced them to go there, because you were bombing everywhere else. Then you were going to drop bombs on the last place that held Palestinians. And he stopped it. He didn't really stop it, but he stopped it.
And he said, if you do go there, I'll smack an embargo on you. You're fighting a 7-front war, and all of a sudden you're slapped with an embargo of weapons. That was tough. And I said to President Biden, who I've known for many years, I respect the fact you're the president of the United States, but I'm the prime minister of the one and only Jewish state. And we've been fighting to survive in our small place under the sun. It's been a battle that has been going on for 3,500 years. So I'll have to do what we have to.
3,500 years? Are you an absolute moron? This guy is so morally depraved and intellectually bankrupt. 3,500 years? Your country was established 75 years ago. You're older than your country. You're about as old as your country, if not older. 3,500 years? Are you an idiot? Oh my God. The first Jews who were supposed to fight in that land rejected the idea of fighting. They told God no. They said to Moses, you and God go fight, and we'll just wait here and we'll come in when it's safe. And then God made them wander the desert for 40 years. What do you mean 3,500 years? Oh my God.
And then a few days later, Tony Blinken, who was the Secretary of State, came to Israel, and he said, the president is serious about this embargo. And I said, Tony, I know it's serious because you stopped all the weapons. You slow walked them before, but now you've stopped them. And then I said to him this. He said, well, how are you going to do it then? I said, Tony, we'll fight with our fingernails if we have to, but we're not going to.
Yeah, right. Shut the hell up. You will never fight with anything more than an AR that you could shoot from 50 yards away. You're not fighting with your fingernails. Shut up. Maybe you'll fight like a cat with your fingernails. This guy's it's pathetic, actually. Like it's pathetic the way he wants us to feel like, one, bad for them, but also like they're saving us and they're here to protect us and they're big warriors. Shut up.
Leave. It's like the Allies would leave a quarter of the German battalions in place and not going to Berlin. And I said, would you take that? Would you take that, Patrick? Of course you wouldn't. So we didn't take it either. We did it against the opposition of the American president. So much for Israel controlling the United States. We don't. But we do seek to control our destiny. And when somebody...
Okay, just for the record, he's referring to when Biden, back in like May of last year, not last year, whenever his last year in office was, he put an arms embargo on American bombs going to Israel for like 2 weeks, like 3 weeks, not even a month. 500-ton bombs and 2,000-ton bombs. Okay. I think pounds, not tons, sorry, but God knows best. And this lasted like 2 weeks and they never ran out of bombs. They always had bombs. They just said, we're going to stop sending them. So eventually you'll run out. And then they kept sending them before they ran out anyways. So it literally did nothing. It was just a show for Biden's administration to make them look like they're not supporting genocide when they really were.
Commits a crime like they did on October 7th, decapitating our men, raping our women.
That is BS again. There's no evidence of raping, and Israel probably killed more Israelis that day than Hamas did. There's actual footage from an Israeli Apache, a helicopter, which is armed with a gun, shooting at innocent civilians. There is an IDF soldier, a young woman, who said that her IDF commander told her to shoot the tank artillery at a crowd of Israeli civilians, and she said no, but her commanders told her to. There were Israeli civilians who experienced October 7th. They were there for, they witnessed it, and they said on Israeli radio shows, and this is still up, you can go find all this stuff, right after the attack, she said, the IDF shot at us. She said they shot at us. And the radio host asked, who shot at you, Hamas? She said, no, the IDF shot at us. Why is the IDF shooting at their own civilians? And why is there so much evidence of it? You guys made the most of that massacre. You guys made it what it was, a massacre. You made it a massacre. And then through all this propaganda about babies in ovens and babies beheaded and babies this, and it's all propaganda. It's all lies.
And then murdering them, burning children alive in front of their parents, taking 255 hostages, grandmothers with their grandchildren, this horror, and pledged to do it again and again and again. Well, what choice?
Yeah, until you stop illegally occupying them and denying them basic human rights like access to water and electricity and basic human freedoms and humanitarian aid and food and all the basic things people need to survive. You've been keeping them in a concentration camp for like 17 years. Well, what do you expect is going to happen? Every single time there's a rebellion against an illegal occupier or an oppressive state, like Nat Turner and the slave revolt was very violent. They said, we're going to kill every white person. But that was because they were being oppressed by white slave owners. And then the Warsaw Ghetto was very, very gruesome as well. They were very violent. The Jews, they were violent because they were being oppressed. So they fought back against the oppressive regime. Why is it any different with Arabs? Why do your people get that back during World War II, but our people don't get that when you're doing the same exact thing to them?
that we have. We have to fight them and their Iranian patrons, and we did just that. We did that first with American help, then with American opposition, and when President Trump came in with great American help, which I truly appreciate. And I think President Trump does what he thinks is good for America. I don't think that. I know that for a fact. He's a great leader.
So going back to that, I want to clarify this again. So you said you don't know whether Hamas October 7 attack would have happened under Trump. So you're saying Hamas would have had the audacity even under Trump.
You're the one who's supposed to stop it. Why is it up to America to stop October 7th from happening? It's your country. Didn't you just say that your warriors are so brave and you give so much intelligence to America, but you didn't have the strength, the bravery, or the intelligence to stop October 7th from happening? Why are you saying that under Trump it wouldn't have happened? This guy, man.
Trump to have attacked, or no, they would have feared him?
Probably not, but it's hard to say with these maniacs. You can't quite tell. I think Iran would have been more careful, and Iran is the patron. Would they have controlled completely their client, their proxy? Maybe not. Maybe they would have, possibly. But look, I think President Trump has changed the posture of America. America is back on the global scene. America is resumed its powerful position among the nations, and I think that's for the good. Because I think one of the tragedies for the Jewish people was that in the first half of the 20th century, America was not the dominant global power. And the worst tragedy in the history of mankind, the World War II, took place, and I don't think it was actually.
Did he just say the worst tragedy in the history of mankind? Unless he's referring to all of World War II. If it's all of World War II, then yeah, that was the worst war, for sure. I'm sure that's what he's referring to. But if he's referring to just the Holocaust and just the genocide of Jews, yeah, there's been a lot worse that have happened. Okay, a lot worse in history. But if it's all of World War II, then that's a justifiable claim.
Accidental, and the worst tragedy in the history of my people, the Holocaust, took place. But in the second half of the 20th century, America emerged as the dominant power on the earth, and Israel came into being. And as a result, our history has changed. We no longer are massacred with impunity. We now have
now you have the ability to massacre others with impunity. The script is flipped. You're no longer massacred. Now you get to massacre other people, and you're very proud of it. It seems.
Ability to defend ourselves, and we are very fortunate to have an ally, a strong ally, the United States, with successive presidents. We've had our differences, as I said, but overall, there's been a very strong alliance through all presidents. But it's never been stronger. It's never been so intimate and so powerful as it is now under President Trump.
So you've been prime minister while President Clinton was in the White House, Biden, Obama, and Trump twice. Is there an element of unpredictability with President Trump that you don't know necessarily what he's going to be saying next? Or do you notice a pattern of, similar approaches that they all take?
Well, look, I think President Trump has an enormous capability. He's irreverent to received wisdom, to traditional thinking. He says, well, let's look at it again, and sometimes he can surprise you. I'll tell you, I had conversations with him when he cuts to the chase on something, and he says something that no one before said. A lot of people felt in their gut, but they didn't have the guts to say it out loud, and he does. And I find that very refreshing. And also, I think that unpredictability is not a bad thing to have. Not a bad thing to have with your sometimes with your allies, and certainly with your enemies.
I want to show you this clip. This is a clip of you and the president. You guys are standing right next to each other, and you give a look that you almost didn't know he was going to say this. And this is just personally for myself. I'm curious, did you know the president was going to be saying this? Go ahead and play the clip, Rob.
As far as Gaza is concerned,
yeah, this is crazy.
Is necessary. If it's necessary, we'll do that. We're going to take over that piece, and we're going to develop it, create thousands and thousands of jobs, and it'll be something that the entire Middle East can be very proud of. But
yeah, Trump just said, this is a while ago, but he said America's going to take over Gaza, and they're going to build Gaza and make it basically a piece of American land and create lots of jobs. That's what Trump said.
Everybody feels that continuing the same process that's gone on forever, over and over again, and then it starts, and then the killing starts, and all of the other problems start, and you end up in the same place, and we don't want to see that happen. So by the United States, with its stability and strength, owning it, especially the strength that we're developing and developed over the last fairly short period of time, I would say really since the election, I think we'll be a great keeper of something that is very, very strong, very powerful, and very, very good for the area, not just for Israel, for the entire Middle East. Very important. And we'll, again, have thousands of jobs. And
you gave a look where you weren't expecting the president to.
That was a lot of yapping and self-glazing.
Say that as if it's going to be our land. Were you surprised by what the president said here?
No, actually, I wasn't. But I can tell you that he said something else there. He said, and that surprised the world. And I thought, again, he cut to the chase. He said, why are Gazans locked in this area, which is just used as a base for attack against Israel for its destruction? That's what the de facto Palestinian state in Gaza was. It was a base for Israel's destruction. It has no other purpose.
No, it's a Palestinian state because they're not a country, because you guys are preventing that from happening. So they're just Palestinian territory and you're illegally occupying them. And there at the time were 750,000 or so Palestinians there. Not all Hamas. It's not a de facto like Hamas space. It's holding hundreds of thousands of displaced innocent men, women, and children. And then you box them all up in a concentration camp.
And it lived under this horrible tyranny, this terror tyranny of Hamas.
Are you brain dead, or are you like an absolute moron who should burn in hell? I don't know which one. Maybe it's both. But yeah, you box them in a concentration camp. If you ask anyone in Gaza, they're going to blame you. If you ask someone in Gaza in 2006, 2007, or you ask someone in Gaza today, they're both blaming you. They're both looking at Netanyahu and saying he's the devil wearing a human being's clothes and skin, and he's at fault. They're going to blame Israel because Israel did it. You think Hamas put themselves in a box? Like you're an absolute moron.
So he said, why not give people a choice? I mean, in other war theaters, in Ukraine or in Syria or in Afghanistan, millions left if they wanted to. In Gaza, they're locked in. Nobody allows them to leave. And he says, give them a choice.
Okay, you're not letting them leave, and Egypt's not letting them in. You're the one genociding them. So don't complain that, they have nowhere to go, poor people. You're killing them. Stop killing them. They won't need to go anywhere.
If they want to leave, let them leave. And for those who stay, rebuild Gaza. I thought that was actually a very sensible thing. And it's not our...
Those who stay, rebuild Gaza. With what? We all know that you're going to go back to putting illegal Jewish settlements in Gaza, just like there were before it became a concentration camp in like 2004, 2005. When you made a concentration camp, you pulled all the Jewish people out of there and trapped all the Arabs in there. Once they're gone, you're going to go back and do the same thing. Everyone in the world knows this.
Our goal now to depopulate Gaza and all these other nonsenses that people say. Our goal is to free Gaza, free it from Hamas, free it from Hamas tyranny and terror.
Why do you care about Hamas? Why do you care about Gaza? Why do you care about freeing the Palestinian people from Gaza? Why is that what you care about? Why is that your goal? You care about them that much? Do you care about them enough in the West Bank to have them have their own country officially? No, your IDF soldiers still go and kidnap people from their homes in the middle of the night and protect illegal Israeli settlers when they terrorize innocent men, women, and children in the West Bank. You don't care about Gazans. Like this guy's, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deal with this guy, man.
We now have Gazans. I'll bet you don't know this, Patrick. We now have Gazans fighting Hamas.
That is complete
thank God
BS.
They didn't dare do that until the final stages of this war, which we're in now. Because
if there's any lie he told in this entire thing, it's that. There is no way you have Gazans in Gaza fighting against Hamas. There's no way. If they do exist, they're Israeli shills. Like they're bought out by Israel. There's no way they exist. I'm going to do a quick search, but there's no way that exists.
They know that they won't be slaughtered. So they fight. They actually fight Hamas. They fight these monsters. They call them monsters. And they're joining up with Israel. And I think that's a sign of hope, because we can have, once we finish off Hamas, Gaza can have a different future. Israel and Gaza can have a different future. And as far as I'm concerned, if America wants to come in and invest, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
So you would be okay if America takes over Gaza and it becomes something that we control. You'd be okay with that?
Yeah, but it's an American choice. I don't want to get into that.
But you would be okay with that. So even if America chooses,
I'd be okay with any governance that civilian governance in Gaza that doesn't teach its children to annihilate Israel.
Okay, first and foremost, that's BS. You're not going to let America run it. And even if they run it, you're going to be in charge of it. And there's only going to be Israelis that live there. That's one. Secondly, I did a quick search here. There have been reports of Israel attempting to arm and work with groups, including Fatah-aligned militants, to provide security in parts of Gaza and prevent Hamas's resurgence. So Israel is basically funding and arming groups inside of Gaza, probably also bribing them in other ways to fight against Hamas. That's very funny and pathetic.
Doesn't pay terrorists. That's what not the Hamas do only. It's what the Palestinian Authority, the other side of the Palestinian people, does. They pay terrorists. The more Jews they kill, the more they pay them. And
That's another lie. There's no way the Palestinian Authority is doing that. The Palestinian Authority is basically a shill government that works under Israel. They allow Israel to do whatever they want, to come in, to kidnap people, to terrorize people, to defend illegal settlers. They don't get rid of illegal settlements. So there's no control. Who deleted my messages here? I'm not deleting any messages. I actually can't even delete messages on Kick or comments on Kick from my StreamYard thing. So I no one's deleting your messages, bro. So yeah, it's actually very pathetic, the lies that this guy utters.
Doesn't launch terrorists, and you know, there are several ideas how to do that. But I think that America's help here is indispensable.
Yeah, that would be very interesting, because if all of a sudden that becomes U.S. territory, and U.S. now has interest in making sure there's not chaos there, that could actually be very effective for a lot of people in the community. I lived in Iran for 11 years. And maybe this is a transition. I got 3 other topics I'd like to talk to you about. Is when I lived in Iran for 11 years, I was born in 78. The Shah was leading Iran, you know, Mohammad Reza Shah Pahlavi. And when you look at the stats from 1941, when he took office, to 1979, that 38 years that he was in, not a lot of wars. It was fairly peaceful. You have some numbers on the low end of 17,000 people that died due to war in Iran during that 38 years. High numbers, 50,000. In the Middle East, not as chaotic. Of course, there was issues, but not as much as they have now. Then from 1979, Khomeini comes in, IRGC, which I had the former founder of IRGC here. We had a conversation with him. Khomeini comes in 79. From 79 till today, if you look at the numbers, the low end, 600,000 people died in Iran, 2 million people. In the Middle East, 4.5 to 5.5 million people have died. Of course, some of the words are different places, but still, when you go back to Iran, you have Houthis, you have all these other things that they control. How much do you think of what the Middle East was like pre the Islamic Revolutionary Guard took over? How everybody was able to find a way to...
What a stupid freaking question. Let's talk about what the Middle East was like before World War I, before being divided by these colonial powers like Great Britain, which is not so great, and America. Before Israel. Let's talk about what Palestine looked like before Israel would be a better question.
Get along versus what happened after 79. I know you're a big history person. What is the difference between those two eras?
Well, the big difference is the Islamist revolution that basically took these very gifted people. The Iranian people are enormously gifted. First of all, they have a
Bro, this guy's chilling for everyone who he wants something from. It's actually very pathetic.
tremendous historic culture, and you won't be surprised, but maybe your listeners would be surprised that in antiquity, in the time of the great Persian king Cyrus, there was a honeymoon between the Jews and the Persian people. And that relationship...
Yeah, you know, also the Muslims brought Jews back to Jerusalem multiple times. Under Umar ibn Khattab, the second caliph of Islam, he brought Jews back when the Catholics and the Crusaders kicked them out, when the Romans kicked them out. And then during Salah ad-Din, when not the Crusaders, but Salah ad-Din's time, not the first time was Romans. When the Romans kicked them out, Umar brought them back. During Salah ad-Din's time, when the Crusaders kicked them out, Salah ad-Din brought them back. And during the Holocaust, when they were fleeing from Nazi Germany, Palestinians accepted them. They brought them in. And everyone's living side by side. Everything was fine until the Zionist terrorist organizations like the Haganah and the Lehi and all these guys, all these groups led by Ben Gurion, who was the first prime minister of the legal state of Israel, started blowing people up, including British officials. They were committing suicide. I can't say the word. And they even offed innocent, well, maybe not innocent. I don't know if they're innocent or not, but they offed British officials as well.
Actually continued in modest ways, but in significant ways under the Shah. When the Shah went down and these theological thugs took over Iran, they basically said, our goal, that's in their constitution, is to export the Islamic revolution worldwide. And that's what they proceeded to do. So all the mineral resources, all the economic resources were now tuned to war. In the time that when I was finance minister and till today, Iran at that time and Israel had roughly the same GDP per capita. Ours went up from $17,000 to $60,000 per capita, and theirs stayed flat. Why? Because they took all that money, all that money to arm Hezbollah, arm Hamas.
No, it's because they got economically sanctioned by America and by you and by other countries. Like, are you a moron? Are you brain dead? You think they just spent all of their money on arming militias? They were economically sanctioned by a fairly significant portion of the world.
Arm the Houthis and purvey terror around the globe, not only in the Middle East, against the Arabs, against Israel, against everyone else, against Americans. So what has happened is that Iran collapsed economically. They have now infrastructure that is completely destroyed. Their water system is depleted. Their dams are empty. Their rivers are drying up because they don't take care of their people. This is a horrible sect. So I gave, in this room where I was sitting a few days ago, I gave a podcast to the Iranian people, which I do from time to time. And I had a glass of water and a pitcher of water.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, we helped Iran and we're ready to help Iran with its water problems. And when you free yourselves of this tyranny, we'll do it again. Now, Patrick, how many views do you think I got for this podcast?
How many?
It's a video, actually. How many?
How many?
70 million.
From
now,
Iran?
Has about 50 million, we
Wow.
think. So it's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that's half the population. And you can tell that it hit a nerve because all the Iranian leadership proceeded to respond to it and to attack it and so on, which tells you it really got to them. And that's, in fact, what is happening. This regime is not only tormenting and executing and killing the people of Iran, they subjugate them, but they seek to subjugate the entire world in their mad fantasies, the Muslim world.
I'm not a fan of Iran. I don't exactly like them. I don't have any affiliation or support with them. They're Shia at the end of the day. I don't believe that they have the best interests of the ummah in mind. I think that would come from people who actually practice the sunnah of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. I don't see any modern leader of any country being that. May Allah grant us better and make us better. Allahumma ameen. But yeah, it's crazy that this guy is sitting here like they want to revolutionize the Islamic. They want to globalize the Islamic revolution. Like, I don't think they've ever said that, especially not recently. If anything, you want to globalize Zionism and you want the rest of the world to be on board with you expelling Palestinians and stealing more land. And for a time they were, because you were succeeding in propagandizing the world. But now everyone's waking up to it and they're on the side of the Palestinians. And that's why your old ass is doing these podcasts.
And then everyone else. And of course, we're not Muslims, so we have to be eliminated because we stand in their way.
I don't know. Maybe, I don't know if Iran has some weird thing. There are a lot of Jews living in Iran before Israel. So I don't think that's exactly their motto there. But yeah, Muslims don't have any problems with Jewish people. We allow for Jews in Jewish courts and synagogues and Jewish communities and all that stuff, and Jewish law in their own communities. There's nothing wrong with that. But this guy, again, is a propagandizer.
Way of conquering the entire Middle East. So Israel is fighting here, not only our war, but the war of our Arab neighbors, the war of the Western countries. They're developing now.
This guy wants to pretend. I'm sorry, I keep pausing. He wants to pretend so bad that he's saving the whole world while at the same time playing the victim. Like, no one's going to believe that you're fighting for the world's existence. You're not. You're not. You're having the world fight for your country, the illegal state, and the oppression of Palestinian people. I'm so happy this podcast is almost done. There's about 4-5 minutes left. Oops.
Ballistic missiles that can reach deep into the heart of Europe. Their plan is to develop, the next thing is an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile that will reach 8,000 kilometers. You add another 3,000 and they can reach New York. Where are you broadcasting from, by the way?
Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
Yep, they can reach Florida, Fort Lauderdale, New York, Washington, Boston, and after that, any other city in the United States. And they intend to put nuclear warheads on these ballistic missiles. So this is a fact. And the main fact that I want to say is that we're fighting in many ways the war of the West, the war of Western civilization against these barbarians. And our victory will be your victory. And one more thing. You talked about the Iranian Revolution. You remember how it started? You remember what the first thing that they did when they took over Tehran?
You talking about the toast with Carter, or are you talking about after when they took over?
Well, they took over and they took the American embassy and held some 50 hostages.
My aunt was in the embassy. Absolutely, yes.
So this regime began by taking hostages. And what do their proxies do today? They take our hostages for extortion. They take our hostages. I liberated 205 out of 255.
You also killed multiples of them. The IDF shot at basically point blank 3 Israeli hostages who were walking inside of Gaza holding a white flag. So yeah, you didn't exactly do a good job. Also, you didn't protect them from being taken as hostage in the first place.
We still have at least 20 alive and about 30 dead, and we intend to get all of them. And that's what we're fighting for now. But it just tells you what the nature of this regime and its proxies is. It's anti-West, anti-America, anti-Western civilization. It's not good to be a Christian. It's very bad to be a Jew in Iran. And it's very bad to be either one of those in any part of Iran's proxies.
Right. I wish we had a couple hours to talk about Iran because I have a lot of interest in that topic with you, but I do want to get to the last question I have with you. This is the one challenge I personally have. My audience is not going to be that interested in the story, except for people from my community. The Holocaust has been recognized by 193 different countries, right? Everybody around the world. And in some countries, if you deny it, you could do jail time. Many countries, you can do jail time a year, 5 years. But for anybody that doesn't recognize...
I wonder why that specific event you can't deny, but other ones you can, like the current genocide that's happening now.
Armenian, Assyrian genocide. If there's any country that I would have expected to be on the list that recognized the Armenian and the Assyrian and the Greek genocide, it would be Israel. Why haven't you yet recognized the Armenian, Assyrian, and the Greek genocide that the Turkish did to that community?
In fact, I think we have, because I think the Knesset passed a resolution to that effect.
I don't know if it's come from you, though. I don't know if it's come from the Prime Minister of Israel.
Yeah, I just did.
Okay.
Here you go.
All right. Well, thank you for doing that. Thank you for doing that.
This guy is such a loser. He's such a baiter as well. Did you guys catch that? He did that on purpose. He had Netanyahu say that the Armenian genocide happened so he can put in his title what he put right here. What he put right here. Netanyahu admits genocide. He wanted to put this in the title to get clicks. And this is what he's referring to. Right at the end of the podcast, he admits the Armenian genocide happened. What a piece of garbage. Patrick Bet, piece of trash.
I appreciate you. That's important to me. And I'm sure a lot of Armenians, Assyrians, and Greeks around the world appreciate you saying that.
Shut up. Stop
Prime
trying
Minister
to justify
Netanyahu, thank you so much for your time. I wish we had more time together. Maybe next time it'll be a sit down with a couple hours, but we don't have to go. I know you have a cabinet meeting to go.
In private, so you can really shill for him the way you want to, you piece of trash.